What is up, family? You are listening to episode 42 of Living Beyond the Dream podcast where we take practical conversations to take the dreams you have for yourself and your organization and turn it into a reality. My name is Mike, joined always by my man Tyler. Been blessed every single week. You've been with us 42 weeks
42
strong.
weeks.
And we just getting started. Can you do me a favor? If this has been a blessing to you, can you please share it?
Yeah.
Can you please subscribe if you haven't already? And rate and review. It really does help us get our reach out. That would mean the world to me. And we're just trying to help as many people be who they were called and created to be. Let's talk a little bit, because that's kind of what we're going in today. Let's talk a little bit about what today's topic is all about.
Today we're going to take a deep dive into ourselves. We're going to learn how to examine ourselves, because last week, if you haven't listened, go listen. Episode 41, we talked about death. But we ended it kind of a great segue, just kind of realizing where you at right now. How can you basically make the best where you're at?
That's right.
So why is it important to your personal life and your leadership to examine yourself?
Well, it's important because we naturally drift away from our spiritual created design, right? We naturally tend to drift towards this fleshly, sinful nature.
Yeah.
Paul talks about this wrestling, right? He talks about how we tend to drift like this. We're fighting this battle. And so if you're not examining yourself, you're going to easily drift into your comforts and compromises instead of your health and your designed nature.
Yeah.
There's a lot of forces trying to take you away from who you're created to be. And so what we do when we're examining ourselves is we're naturally refocusing our attention and identifying things that are keeping us from our design and who we're created to be. And it's being intentional. I make a statement all the time. You can have good intentions, but good intentions never become a reality until you have intentionality attached to them. You've got to have intention. We can always intend to be a good person.
Yeah.
We can always intend to be a good leader. We can always intend to be a better parent. You're not going to be any of those things unless there's intentionality attached to them.
Yeah.
Unless you're very intentional with your life.
Yeah.
And examining yourself gives you that intention. And intentionality has to be consistent.
Yeah.
It can't just be occasionally.
Yeah.
It means you got to consistently build this into the routine of your life so that you can be healthy.
Yeah.
And so my mentor talks about this a lot. My pastor, Pastor Scott Wilson, shout out. Got a new book that just dropped, p3book.org. Go check it out. Love him. He's one of the greatest leaders out there. But one of his big things is the health of us leaders, to the point where he's all about getting counseling.
Yeah.
He's gotten me into counseling because he believes, man, we just need to have these conversations. We need to examine it. You need to have this with your wife. You don't go to counseling to put out the fire. You go to counseling to prevent the fire.
Yeah.
Because we all have things in our life that aren't healthy.
So
no
good.
one's perfect.
Yep.
And man, when we could talk about it and come to life, we can fix things before it ever gets that place.
Yeah.
Great way to be a leader. Great way to be a better father. Great way to be a better spouse. So that's one thing that he does. He's encouraged me to do. But then there's a lot of other areas that I try to work on personally on top of counseling to make sure that I can be as healthy as possible and grow.
Yeah. And you actually kind of have a morning ritual, right?
Yes.
That you do. So kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, every morning I come into my office, I grab myself a cup of coffee, I come in my office, and I have a quiet time.
Yeah.
And it's a reflection time. And I pull out a notebook that sits right on my desk. I never move it. And I literally score myself every day. And I have 10 questions I ask myself.
Yeah.
And I give myself a score of 1 through 10 based on how I was the day before.
Yeah.
And at the end of the week, I add it up. And I look at the areas that I need to focus on getting better and improving in.
Wow.
And I'm very honest with my scores, and I'm really honest with what I do. And some of them are practical, and some of them are more emotional. So I'm really trying to identify where I can get better, because I realize that I bring up a lot of my past into my present. So the way I was raised and the things that I've experienced and what's shaped my personality, some of those are not always healthy.
Yeah.
And some of those I'm portraying and putting on my children, on my wife, on those that I lead. And those are not healthy things that I need to be putting on them.
Yeah.
And if I'm not examining myself, I'll just do it, and I'll do it with an excuse. Well, that's just the way I am.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm wired. That's the way I'm raised. Listen to me. My personality can never be an excuse for sin. It can never be excuse for unhealthy behaviors.
Yeah.
And so I've got to keep myself accountable, and that's one of the ways I do it.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm going to ask you, would you get a little vulnerable with us and share those questions that you asked?
Yeah, we'll talk about them. And these questions are my questions.
Yeah.
You can use some of them, so if you want to steal them. But you need to find questions that really reflect your values. And so this is kind of what I've identified as what I reflect my values. The first question I ask myself is, how fatherly was I?
Yeah.
And so that's the first question I look at. And basically what I'm saying is, I want to be a healthy father in a generation that I think is fatherless.
Yeah.
So I want to be a very affectionate person. I want to be a very encouraging person. And I want to help coach people to be their best, right? I want my children to know that daddy loves them. And I want them to know that I want to see them be better than me.
Yeah.
So I want to see them elevate higher than me. So that's an intentional desire that, do I hold people back, or am I allowing people to shine greater than me?
Yeah.
I want to be the dad on the bench watching my kid play the sports, not the one that's the star on the court.
Yeah.
There's a difference there.
Yeah.
And there's a different pride there. So I ask myself, how fatherly was I? Then I go into basically, how affirming was I? Mm-hmm. And what I mean is, how affirming was I with my family and then with my team? So I do two different areas. How affirming with my family? Was I very affirming with my wife and with my children? Did I speak words of affirmation into them? Did I speak words of life into them on a daily basis? Or did I speak death that day?
Yeah.
Did I call my wife a name? Was I disrespectful to my children? And I do that same thing with my staff, right? Sometimes I have a tendency of being sarcastic. And that's one of the way I think of humor in my life. But sarcasm is fine in small doses. Mm-hmm. It's horrible in large doses. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a spice. A spice is fine, but you can't dump the whole thing in there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can be overboard with it to the point where I'm negative and demeaning, and I'm not encouraging enough and affirming enough. So I sit and look and I go, I had a bad day yesterday.
Yeah.
I was picking on somebody way too much. Yeah. And to the point where they may not admit it, but it's probably very unhealthy.
Yeah.
Or I didn't say anything to anybody. I wasn't affirming at all. I encouraged him, and I didn't say anything. So it's another way I rate myself, that I'm looking, how affirming was it? And I try to visually remember throughout the day how I was.
Yeah.
I go on to it and I ask, how was my mood?
Yeah.
Was I emotionally, stressed? Was I angry? Was I just annoyed? Was I in a good mood? Or was was I happy? Was I just kind of easygoing? So how was my mood? It's a very easy question to ask yourself. Did I let my emotions lead me?
Yeah.
So based on my mood, did I react to that mood?
Yeah.
Because it's not like every day is going to be a great day.
Right.
But I can let my stress trickle into negative things, or I can say, you know what? I identified my stress, but I was led spiritually. I prayerfully composed myself.
Yeah.
There's a difference there. So
for sure.
How was I led with my emotions? Then I go through basically, how distracted was I? So did I get distracted with conversations that were not going to get me towards my goals?
Yeah.
Did I get distracted reading a bunch of Bleacher Report, sports stuff? Did I get distracted with my emails that weren't really important? Did I get away from what I wanted to accomplish? So how distracted was I? Then I go into, did I spend any time? How much time did I spend with my family? Mm-hmm. I want to make sure I'm spending enough time with my kids and my family. I'm not just got my face in a screen.
Yeah.
Or in my own business. So I wanted to make sure that. Then I go into, how much did I accomplish? Did I feel like I accomplished a lot yesterday? Did I feel like I got a lot of my goals done? Did I check off? Then I go into, how was my diet? I ask myself, did I eat good yesterday?
Yeah.
And I rate that. How much did I read? Did I read enough yesterday?
Yeah.
I rate that. I go into, how much value did I add to others?
Yeah.
So do I feel like I made people better?
Yeah.
Those are the 10 questions I ask myself every day. I know it's a lot of questions, but that's what I do.
Yeah.
Maybe you only have 5 questions. Maybe you have 15 or 20. I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But you need to do this. And I got this from something that Benjamin Franklin did. Benjamin Franklin has 13 virtues, and his virtues are different than my virtues.
Yeah.
But he literally every single day has a journal, and he would literally rate himself every day on his virtues.
Wow.
And when I saw that, I go, that's really smart and strategic.
Yeah.
And I'm a systems guy. I am not naturally a relational guy.
Yeah.
I'm not naturally an emotionally connected guy. That's not my natural. I'm actually the kind of person that's very introverted by nature. People don't realize that because I'm very extroverted on stage, but I like to zone out. I like to be, and it could be because I went to 12 different schools growing up. I moved a lot. I never really grew up with a best friend. And so I have to have systems to help me be relational.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to naturally do that. So I've created a system for myself so that I could be relational and healthy and emotionally strategic with that. So you got to work with who you are and try to lead yourself towards health. That's how I examine myself.
I think that's incredible that you were able to identify that and then build this around that. So maybe talk a little bit to the person that, just like you, says, man, this is a great idea. I want to start that. How do I create my list?
Well, first off, you got to realize if you had the perfect you, so you were the perfect spouse, father, and leader, what would those values look like that would create that character? So you just need to figure that out.
Yeah.
And that's, write it down. What type, if I was the best husband in the world, what were some of those attributes?
Yeah.
Right? Father, blah, blah, blah. And maybe you would even ask, right? Maybe ask your spouse, hey, what are my best qualities, or that you want to be my best qualities?
Yeah.
Great question to ask yourself. And so you need to sit down and just really think about that. Take time.
Yeah.
Second thing you're going to have to do is carve out time every day to make this priority.
Yeah.
So I wake up every day at the same time. I have a shower. I get ready. I make my coffee. I walk to my office, and I have it already carved out to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't sleep in. I don't get frantic. I don't change my alarm. None of that. I know what my routine is so that I'm not frantic. I do it. Then I do it before the kids are awake. So when the kids get up, I get to help the kids get ready for school with my wife, make them breakfast while she's doing the other things. And then that's what we do. So I've carved out time to make this possible.
Yeah.
If you don't carve out time in your schedule, you will never make this a priority.
Yeah. That's good. How long would you say you've been doing this?
I've done this for a form for years.
Yeah.
I've shifted the way my values over the last time.
Yeah.
But for well over a year, I've woke up every single day at the same time, and I've had something written on my dry erase board that I've reflected on the day before. So this has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
I've shifted some of my values over that year.
Right.
But that's been happening for a regular basis.
Well, that's a good point too. I feel like, just realizing that that's not a static thing. I mean, it can change because you change, your
evolve,
leadership change, your position might change, things like that. I think that that's huge. So you've been doing it for a year. Would you say that you have seen yourself progress because of this?
Yes, I guess that's a good question to ask other people. I feel like I have progressed in that, and I feel like I have identified some negative areas in my life, and I feel like I've been more productive in other areas that I wasn't always productive in. I'm reading more than I've ever read in my life, and I've always been a reader, but now I'm knocking out twice as many books as I did before because it's part of my thing. My diet's gotten way better. I feel like I am being more intentional with time with kids, especially over the last several months. This has been a really big focus on me was family time. I feel like I've not shifted. So I've been really working on strategic on those things. And so what you got to be okay with is understanding where you're failing and letting that be an accountability measure.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is not always just look at the things that are good in my life and try to make them better, right? I try to look at things I'm really bad at to try to move the bar up, right? I want to be – I'm not the best father, and I am okay admitting that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be a better father. And so I work on that. It's part of the things I talk about in counseling. It's part of the things I'm examining myself.
Yeah.
I want to be a better father.
Yeah.
And so those are things – and I want to be a better father not just to my own children but also the people I lead. I want to be more fatherly in that.
Yeah.
So these are areas that I've realized that – it's not like I'm an abusive, horrible father.
Right.
But just because I'm not an abusive, horrible father doesn't mean I can't be a better father.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think, well, I'm not the worst. Well, just because you're not the worst doesn't mean you're the best.
Right.
Why settle for okay when you could be the best?
Yeah.
And that's why live a life at a 7 when you could live it at a 10?
Yeah.
And really be the best.
Yeah. That's good. So real quick in closing, talk to the leader who might say right now, this sounds awesome, but it's a whole lot of commitment. Maybe give them some encouragement on why they really need to do this.
Excuses are just nobody got time for excuses. Listen to me, everything in life takes commitment that's worth it. Anything of value is going to take you to have a little bit of a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Nothing happens in your comfort zone that leads to growth. Nothing happens in you just being all inclusive and never having to stretch yourself.
Yep.
You're going to have to stretch yourself in life. Every leader knows that. You just got to make the decision, pull the trigger, and do it because you know it's what you do. I'm not telling you to do the way I do it. I'm not telling you to have what the questions I have. But I am telling you, you need to consistently examine yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to think about health now, not just think about health when your world is falling apart.
So
all right,
good.
guys.
So
Love
good.
you guys. Every week you tuning in. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, ring-a-ding that bell. And I hope that you share it, rate it, and review it because it really helps us get that word out.
Yep.
And until next week, love you guys. Pray God's peace.